that says pause. Basically.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love you to come to the table, Talia and team. Don't, Karen, you're hiding around the corner there. I can't see the colours of your eyeballs. Come on and sit at the front table, would you?
In your room.
Yeah.
Do we have anybody on screen? Louise was potentially going to join us. Great.
Oh, no, she's joining on Teams.
Yeah, she's on Teams.
But we haven't got a Teams.
Balance things up.
We're on.
How do you-
Look, she needs a bit of space. She's enjoyed the Taituara thing last night. If she's and we've got Jesus deputising for her.
Yeah, she's not. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys coming. That's much more friendly. G'day, Karen. Welcome to town. If I can say that as an outside, you're more this town than I am. But good to have you here, Karen. Thank you. Okay, well, we'll just try and get Louise up on the spot. If I read chat from the chief right, there was an award for at least was it a scholarship for one of our staff members who, sorry, I don't know, but that's great news.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Fred Bree.
Yeah,
Very well deserved.
that's wonderful. So always good when you see people in your own team succeeding. It's wonderful. I wonder if you folk would join me. I better find it before we sit. Can you join me please in the karakia? I thought I had my karakia. I haven't.
Run sheet.
Where's my run sheet? There's my run sheet. I knew I'd seen it somewhere. Thank you. We'll get ourselves coordinated here, won't we? Yes, look, if you'd join me please with the karakia, that would be great. Te tawa mai i ranga, te tawa mai i raro, te tawa mai i roto, te tawa mai i waho, ki hu atu, te Māori ora, ki he katoa, omi e, hui e, taki e. Thank you. That's tremendous to get ourselves going in that way. We just go through the core sort of stuff. Firstly, apologies. Kirsten, I think, moving. Is that right, or something? She wasn't able to make it today, so we've got an apology from her. Is there anybody else? Perhaps we should just sustain one for Hayley. She's probably the business upstairs is better than the business down here. I don't know. We'll not worry about that. But she's either late or not here. I think let's just note we're trying to get Louise in, but otherwise she has been in Wellington, as we've said, and she was keen to join, but she has also made arrangements that Jess deputises. Oh, she's there?
No.
Okay.
Just sent through the
Brilliant. So Louise may well be. Is any other matter?
Adam McDonald's.
Yeah, Adam, that's right. And you're Andrew, are you?
I'm Andrew, yeah.
Good to meet you, Andrew. Yeah. And I got the email from Adam, so thank you for acknowledging that Adam was going to be here. But great to have you here, Andrew. At probably short notice. We'll go easy on you. That's wonderful. Okay. Well, look, I'll move from the chair. We sustain those apologies. Do I have a seconder, please? Thanks, Grego. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, it's carried. Any matters of interest related to the agenda we need to note for this meeting or particular changes to circumstances? None. It's great. Public forum, haven't been informed of any, Carolyn, at this stage. Announcements by the mayor. Well, the mayor's not here, so we can't have that. But there might be minor matters you just wanted to raise.
Yes, thank you. Just the asset management roadmap. Thank you.
Yeah. So your desire, you want to just deal with that right now?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah. I'd just like to ask formally that we receive an update on our asset management roadmap at our next meeting. Thank you.
Brilliant. I'd endorse that too. So if we just note that as an action, I don't think we have to necessarily treat that as a just not. And I support that on the basis that it's a key area. Let's just keep our nose to the grindstone on that one and see where it's at. Yes, anything that we need to know from management?
No, nothing from me today.
Not from you today? Good. So we can get to the minutes of the last meeting, which is the 4th of April. Always a momentous day. I turned 65 that day.
That's right.
Interests, as you might recall. I'll just let you folk know. 56. Grego, you've gone to the top of my list of councillors. Sally didn't say that to me. She said, 75. But anyway, there. I'm going to move that we take this as a true and correct record. Thank you, David. Is there any matters of correction or accuracy we need to note?
No.
It looked like a darn good record of our meeting. Thank you, Carolyn. So I'll move from the Chair, that we, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, it's carried. Can I just, there's a couple of matters that I just wanted to check. Mainly, there's a chance I haven't done what I should have done, which was under the last item, purpose of the report, and it's good that you're here, Karen. I was delegated the authority along with Louise to approve the audit plan for 23-24. I didn't actually go back to I don't think I had my minutes last one. Did we talk about a draft plan at the last meeting? Have I approved anything that's final? Can we just tidy that up, please? Or can we just check, Karen, have you issued a final plan?
Yes.
And have you had any feedback from me?
No.
Right. Okay. So can we just? It's probably me, Karen, not you, that needs to do it. But I mean, that had been a motion to just keep things on the move. So obviously they haven't. So Karen, if we could liaise after the meeting, I'd just like to tie that one up so that we've got that one tidy. Okay, that's my problem. Nobody else's. Okay, that's brilliant. In which case we can then. Oh, we've done the minor matters, not on the agenda. I did that as part of, we've got 2 minor matters, but that's not a problem at all. That gets us to the set of stuff. Before I start, I think I said this to Jess, and I just like to say it. We have a reasonably short agenda, but actually when I went through the papers, we've got a cracker agenda because of the quality and the information value inside the papers. So look, I just want to compliment Jess staff. Louise, welcome to the meeting. Great to see you here as well. I just want to compliment staff on the quality of the papers. I feel like if we choose to, as a committee, we've got some really good stuff to engage in all of these papers on. So I'm deeply grateful. Perhaps I'm even saying that I sense a pickup in the quality of the papers, which is really superb. So can I acknowledge that? So we could move into the internal audit recommendations. Talia, are you dealing with that? Raymond's not here today.
No, Raywin doesn't work on Fridays. So
Oh, what a smart
isn't able to
person.
make it.
Well, we're meeting on a Thursday next meeting, so she's tough. She's going to have to be here. Thanks, Talia. In your hands.
All right. So this is the regular update on the internal audits, which have been completed, where we've got actions still outstanding to be done. We have been making good progress on those. There's still 4 audits, which we are reporting back on. And in the percentage completed table, you will see that there has been some good progress in the last quarter. Other than that, I'll take it as read. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Can I just check with members any questions you've got on this? Yes, Sally.
Thank you, through the chair. Just a couple, if I may. First, I wondered about the rationale around the prioritisation of these actions and wondering if it's risk-based or time-based, as in the elapsed time that it's been sitting as an action versus
What might be more
the risk.
critical?
Yeah.
It is. So, are you referring to the risk status that's on the report, or just how managers are?
Yeah, how we are prioritising the work program around this.
Yeah.
Although, can I just add to that, Talia, because obviously if it's higher risk, one would assume we'd devote some attention to getting it done. I think it's really the tough question on that one.
Yeah, sorry, that is where I'm going. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is up to the manager of whichever department it sits with to do the prioritisation. It should be prioritised based on risk, and generally the sort of lower risk, easier to or quicker ones are also done as a priority as well, I would say, so that we can see some progress. But the high risk ones, typically I would expect would be prioritised first.
Thank you. That does give me some confidence. And if I may, my second question, around the accounts payable system replacement, I see that there are a number of actions sort of tied to that, and wondering what the expected timing on that project is.
So the RFP for that has just come back. We should be selecting a provider in July. We will then have quite a bit of work before it's put in place. So probably the final go live date would be early next year. Once we've selected a provider, though, we'll have a bit more comfort around what they'll be able to do for these actions, as well as to whether there's any more urgent action that we can take in the meantime if they wouldn't be covering off anything required to fix those actions.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks, that's Sally. Any other questions from folk? So look, thank you for that question, Sally. We haven't been twinning up on this one, but it's a good question because I would have probably been keen to have asked the same because in a broad sense, if I look at page 5, we've got four basically key reports with outstanding matters. And so I am going to ask you, is any of these, if we take the 4, which should have the highest priority from benefiting the organisation? You got a sense on that one, Talia? It's your chance to. Or Jess, you may have a view. I'm just open to it because what I'm trying to reflect here is, probably, it would be useful to get management's advice. Actually, which ones are we really focusing on? Because I get a general sense. I know that we're for all the good reasons, and there are a ton of really valid reasons. Workload, what's on us. We need to keep the rates down. You wouldn't have, all that sort of drama. I buy into that. But actually, perhaps the question is actually what ones are we think are really important? We've got to focus on, which would go back to the risk prioritization discussion. So, do you have a view which any of these really outstanding that are causing us should be keeping us awake at night? Yes, you're welcome to join in as well.
I'm happy to jump in and help Talia out here. So I think you'll see from compared to last quarter, the most recent audit that we did was the PAYE withholding tax review, and we've obviously made some really good progress in terms of completing and addressing some of those. So from our perspective, that was one that really needed to be addressed quite quickly. So we weren't comfortable leaving that to sit on the table for a period of time. So I think those sort of corporate compliance risks are ones that we consider to be quite high in terms of needing to be addressed quickly. The records management one has been there for quite some time. That's one that doesn't keep me awake at night, but it kind of slightly irritates me.
Yeah.
Still there. You'll see that I have been chasing up my CIO in terms of making some progress on that, and as a result that does have some actions now that have my name against them.
Oh, no.
So we are
delegation upwards. Okay.
So I'm pushing him to make progress on them, and as a result now he's waiting on me to progress some actions as well. So we are making some progress there, but there are some interdependencies there, and some of those IT, I suppose, implementations are much longer in terms of taking time, resource, and funding to implement. So, in terms of which ones we should be more concerned about, I think the PAYE, the withholding tax audit, is a priority for us, and we are focusing on those over some of those, the records management, which are probably lower risk, I think. But they all do need to be addressed, and I think that's kind of how we're ranking them in terms of order of priority.
Right. Look, in fairness to you, in fairness to staff, actually, we thrashed the records management the last meeting. I was going back to our minutes, which was recognising that there were 1 or 2 steps. But the new information is that we've got you on the job, Jess. So that is absolutely superb. And I don't mean that it's been unkind at the CIO, but I appreciate that. I mean, this is really your question, but actually some of this counts. So we should try and get our act together on it. It's interesting because my one question was on records management, Jeff. And it partly goes across to the other paper. And this is one which it may not be quite directly tied to the recommendation, but at a more general level interests me is the relationship of our contractors to our records. Now, whether that's because they're doing work for us and we need the information around the as-builts so that, in fact, our asset management system is up to date, or whether it's health and safety systems or whatever it is, actually that access point, and I mean, to my participation in procurement decisions elsewhere around the country, the quality of a contractor, either with the systems of information they bring and how they relate to us, or how they even access directly into our systems, is actually really important for the efficiency of business. So that's why I looked at that first sentence on the 4th one down on page 7. Which says, trouble, I need glasses these days, that actually there's a bit of concern around the practice of onboarding contractors, that was just one that I thought, well, might have a bit of priority for me if I can give you a bit of weighting on the
Yes.
records management one. And I don't know whether there's any comments you could make at this stage, Jess or Talia, but I just reflect on that it's a bit like the PAYE thing. I totally get why we're focusing on PAYE withholding tax, because each fortnight or weekly or however often you pay, Carolyn, if we've got the settings wrong, we're just building up a problem. And I wonder about this in terms of records and contractor access, and as much, not so much what they're looking at, because if they're into the system, they need to be for whatever their role is, but actually us having back whatever is relevant from them in terms of information. So I'll leave it as an open sort of rhetorical question rather than, unless you
Thank
want
you.
to comment on that one now, but I just
No,
if I
happy
could just
to
reflect
to
that
take
might
that
be
as
useful
something to come back to you
back
on.
from you focus
Yep.
to where that's at.
Thank you.
Perfect. Good. Right, so the recommendation is receive the report, and do I have a mover and a second, please? Thank you, Sally. Thank you, Grego. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, it's carried. Thank you for that, Talia. Sensitive expenditure. Small but critical.
Yes. So
Any comment, Talia?
again, this is a regular report that we do because the chief executive and the mayor are able to sign off each other's sensitive expenditure. As an extra level, we bring it back for review to this meeting. There was nothing outside policy. In fact, there was very little in this past quarter.
Brilliant. Thank you. Well, I don't take it lightly. You're saying it's outside policy. Thank you for doing the work. That's important for us to know. Any questions or comments for Talia on this? To be blunt, it seems all reasonable to me. I'm not certain that we should hold ourselves up too much on that. So look, I'll move from the chair that we receive the report. In receiving that, let's just acknowledge that as the risk committee, we're essentially supporting management's assessment. This is reasonable, and that protects both Louise and Kirsten. So it's an important little decision, albeit we're doing it quickly. Do I have a seconder, please? Thanks, Grego. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, it's carried. Brilliant. Righty, contract management. Good name here, which I'm not aware of, Mark, but this is somebody.
No, next one is coming in at 11:30.
Oh, okay, so I've got to move on. We've got to
Yes.
come back to item
Oh,
3.
you've got
Sorry,
that.
my mistake. You're quite right. Yes, you told me, Carolyn. My apologies. So that gets me then on to the policy process review update.
Me again. So yes, we have been making some progress on policies. We've got another 4 that have been approved since the last audit and risk meeting. I did note in the paper that there were some going to ELT before this meeting. That's actually happening later this month now, but they are on the agenda for later this month. So we'll be able to report back on those next quarter. Thank you.
Thank you, Talia. Any comments or questions for Talia? Talia, just look, there's not a direct risk question in this. It's partly, and I'll be honest, and I'll stress very quickly, this is matters I'm dealing with elsewhere. What's the scope of the complaints policy?
I am not sure on that one. Sorry.
Okay, who is that? Probably a chief people officer, people in ability sort of type thing.
I
that
assume
who
it's
deals with that
customer
policy?
services. I'm not quite sure though. I can look it up.
Yeah, I haven't. Sorry, I haven't. Actually
No, look, don't worry.
seen that.
I would be. I think it would be. Can I say? I think it would be important. You will bring these policies back to us.
Wasn't intending to, but we can. Would you like that just for information?
Yeah,
or
look,
for
I just
approval?
well, look, I'm actually open to a discussion with you as to whether we should not. Firstly, I don't want to trample in on operational matters. If you want to say, Bruce, keep it operational matters, that's fine. And I stress this is not here. It's actually I'm bringing other council's problems into my questions, so I'll be quite careful about that one. I'm interested in the culture of encouraging staff to speak up.
It's not the speak up policy.
No, I know that,
Yeah.
but part of the process should also include, as an adjunct or adjacent to it, the capacity, if needed, to raise a complaint. So I'm just,
Right.
and yet, I'm just thinking about matters that I am dealing with elsewhere, where in fact the council hasn't defined a complaint process particularly well for staff. So I'm not wanting to encourage them to complain. I do agree with the speaker, but I have to recognise at the occasional point of exception, there may be the need for a complaint, and how does that happen? So I'm interested if there's a risk angle to that. It's simply that we have the suite of approaches if it's needed to be used.
I have just confirmed that that policy sits with governance and it's council approved, so it
Cool.
would go back to council.
That's really what that was the one that attracted me. Look, the rest are all good logical things that should follow through. So I'll take your advice on that one. You're going to come back to me, Talia, and say, yeah, go away. That's fine. I'll accept that, just to note my concerns. Okay, so from that, I better move that we receive the report. Thank you. Very good report. Seconder, please. Thank you, David. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
That's great. Thank you. External audit actions.
Yes, so again, a regular report that we bring back to you on the actions that come out of the Audit New Zealand reports after our annual report each year. We have been making good progress on this. It isn't reflected in actually being able to tick things off completely, but the ones that we've got left are quite large items that are taking a while to get through. So there's definitely has been progress, which hopefully is reflected in the comments. Thank you.
The fact I haven't looked at the final audit plan, Karen. Have you been in doing work at all interim basis?
Yes.
Have you? Have you guys had a chance to look at our outstanding list?
We haven't
No,
had
okay.
a chance
Rightio.
to look at our outstanding list. We'll follow that up as part of the upcoming second interim audit, which commences on the 24th of June.
Right. Okay. Yep. So for our whatever next meeting is, I've got a date in my head. Be quite good to see the list. I don't have trouble by the way with the nature report, but I'd be quite keen to see the list and hopefully we've diminished a good number of them. Well, whatever number we've got on the basis of being able to say we've got your agreement, they can go. That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we received that information. Do I have a move in a second, please? Thank you, Grego. Thank you, David. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, it's carried. Grego, be very worried. At one meeting I had this week, I kept looking at two members the whole meeting to move my motions. So you might be in my crosshairs. Health and safety, Andrew. Welcome to the meeting, and thank you for being here. Obviously, very short notice. So we will give you an easy ride, don't worry. But actually, this is a very interesting report, so please take the time you need, but give us the salient points. I'd be happy to hear those.
I think, as I say, I apologize to chair in the committee that I've just, this was supposed to be a learning exercise for today, but obviously our manager's unfortunately sick, so I'll be leaning on Jess maybe to steer me a bit here, but yeah, I think obviously the main key points is we've had a bit of 4 serious contract incidents in the last quarter for council. One of them I can speak on them, which was we had one contractor that struck a overhead power pole.
Yep.
Thankfully, it wasn't a HV cable; it was actually the fibre optic cable that knocked off. We stopped the job, had a safety reset, and basically put some more flagging and bunding up to control that. And since then, they've sort of been a bit more aware of that. Ahuri Alliance was demo saw cutting without any RPE on, so even the claim was that wasn't concrete, but there's still stone and asphalt. They're still releasing potentially silica. The other one, Burkett, they backed into a light tower with their own machine through distraction. There was a dog on the back of their own ute barking at the operator, and that so he backed into something. So it's very heavy distracted. So that was a good learning and significant near miss there. And the large one, which was our MAP projects team who are working by the wastewater treatment plant, that was a notifiable event because they rolled a piece of equipment completely over onto its roof. In our further investigation, which they carried out, learnings for that is they had the wrong people in the wrong positions, and people carrying out jobs that they weren't there to do. So we stopped the job. WorkSafe obviously arrived and visited the site. Their recommendations was basically mirrored what mine were, so they had to sort their stockpile out. We wouldn't allow them to start any work until they sorted out the hazards, which they did over the course of 3 days. And we also had a safety reset 2 days after the incident. And from the council side, that is I visit them at least twice a week now to ensure the controls they have said they're doing are being carried out. So far to date, they are.
So you're referring to the incident, which is the second bullet point?
4, yeah.
Yeah. So that included the fact that the guy that failed a drug and alcohol
Yes,
test.
yes.
But-
So he failed a drug and alcohol test. He was a hire company. So,
Yeah.
Who was supposed to guarantee that their workers are fit for work. They come to work.
So Andrew, we're going to have a bit of a focus at 11:30 on contractors, and I've already had not a crack at contractors, wrong word actually, but you know, I think seriously, I try to think seriously about the relationship of contractors with our organisation. I've talked about records management, and this is another key area where the relationship between us in the combined PCBU sense was there. Was there any learnings for us that this contractor had to go back and do so much basic stuff like do hazards identification and rejig their whole safety approach? I guess I'm asking a slightly tough question.
Yeah,
here.
no, that's right.
Why hadn't we solved that before they started?
So they did have a really good triple SP for the job, which I reviewed before they started.
Yeah.
I had got the project was being project managed on behalf of us by Becca, and I have a really good relationship with that project manager, and so we were talking about the project quite a lot. We had a pre-site meeting, and I did mention it that they did say they'd have only nothing but licensed and competent operators. So I had a pretty frank conversation with their health and safety advisor and their supervisor to say that, you know, it's not good enough, and you said you're doing one thing, but you didn't.
Yeah, the implementation.
So
the problem was
not
the
very happy
implementation.
about that.
Yeah.
So, and in the interim, before that was even happened, I've been working with our projects team and the Free Waters team because they do a lot of high risk projects about how we can get better control over the contractors and let them know what we want from get go, basically. And I've just in the My Safety Assurance system put a whole bunch of location heads for the project management team that they can provide to the contractors. So this is what we expect of you when you're carrying out this high risk work. So the conversation had started, and we're slowly putting in the controls. But it is challenging sometimes just with resources, because obviously we're a large organisation. So.
I mean, what I'm, you know, which is interesting because in fact, even though I asked quite a specific question, my interest ultimately is what is the reflection on our systems, and what is the system, the health and safety system doing, and is it working right? So I appreciate the transparency with which you're giving us this advice. Just one other question, and again, it's just piqued my interest. Do WorkSafe have an offer? I mean, you said they were there. They basically came on site straight away. Are they locally based?
Yes, they are.
Yeah. Okay.
I think we have 4 offices here.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
And I'm not sure which one turned up on the initial, but on the follow up, I just happened to be there doing an audit as well, and Andrew turned up, and I know him as well. So yeah, I have a really good relationship with WorkSafe.
It was more. I'm just again more interested in the relationship rather than the who, on the basis that this is the sort of situation we notified. In effect, they're on the site straight away.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Okay, so they were there.
Okay. Sorry, I've gone deep dive into your notifiable event. Sorry, is anything else on your paper you'd like to note?
Not off the top of my head.
No, okay. Appreciate that. So, questions for Andrew, or perhaps the broader team here? I'm just, Andrew, looking at maybe you can't comment because I spent more time on the notifiable event than I would have wanted to possibly, albeit I had questions around, because and I just want to reflect to the rest of the committee. What really interests me about this paper is actually what is, Jess, you and Adam doing in terms of leading the organisation into a better
culture.
Let's use a word I've learned out of the CIO territory, a better risk posture around health and safety. There we go. So, jelly beans, you can use the word posture as many times as you like. In other words, strategically, what are we doing to up our game in terms of, because I think it's fair to say, both through expressions of some concern from the committee over the last 3 or 4 meetings, but actually I think having met with you and Adam, where you want to go. I actually think the most critical part of this paper is actually the strategic implementation, or the implementation of the strategic work program. And this looks like it's really good, Jess. Andrew, I don't know whether you've had any part in this, but Jess, you may have a stronger sense that this is going okay, because I want to affirm my view that this is starting to head us in the right direction.
Yeah, I feel like we are making some really good progress. So Adam and Andrew are working really well together. Andrew has stepped more into a leading role in terms of leading some of the health and safety work to allow Adam to focus on developing more of a strategic wellbeing piece of work. I think that's Adam who's joined us online there potentially. So we had hoped to have progressed some of the work around identifying some of the critical risks a little bit more in that health and safety space. And we haven't made as much progress over the last quarter as we had hoped. But I do think we are making some really good progress around the implementation of the improvement plan. And and we are, I feel like we are moving in the right direction. So
what's the timeline on that plan? There's a terrible question.
Oh, in terms of the wellbeing strategy.
No, in terms of the total, or the total. Yes, you have seen. I have got a question on the wellbeing strategy, but I'm talking about the overall health and safety strategy.
I'm probably a bit nervous about committing Adam to a time frame without him being there. But in terms of the actual wellbeing strategy itself, we probably are aiming to have that completed over the next month. And Adam's going to deliver that to the ELT by the end of June, probably June.
Brilliant.
To us, and we do have funding for that in year 1 of our 3-year plan to implement that. So that's great. And I think probably, without committing Adam to anything, we're probably thinking over the sort of the next 6 to 12 months around completing this improvement plan. So just in terms of giving us a bit of time to do that.
Morning. Sorry, I won't turn my camera on. It's been a bit of a rough night. But if you do have any questions, I can answer them. But I'll just quickly jump on and enjoy. So feel free to ask.
Thanks, Adam.
It's also Jill Coyle here. I'm online too.
G'day, Jill. How are you? Welcome as well. Adam, thank you. Above and beyond of your crook as, mate.
No, it's all good. I think I did hear you ask about the critical risks and the work in that. So I suppose the big thing is that there's a system build going on behind the scenes. So in the critical risks, the building material, asbestos, and the contractor management, we're working with a number of different teams across the organisation to build a system in terms of enabling us to manage those risks. So it's work that's happening, and it'll basically just switch on, and we anticipate switching that on in the next quarter. And that's for 2 of our most critical risks: contractor management, safety management, and asbestos.
Okay, that's brilliant. That was perhaps you've anticipated my question, here, Adam, which was that in terms of our strategic progress, it was that identification and assessment of critical health and safety risks, which I won't use the word lagging, but obviously from a completion or status perspective, is a wee bit behind the rest of the program, and yet presumably identification and assessment of critical risks is probably one of the core things we've got to do as health and safety managers. Okay,
for sure.
Right. You explained it, mate. That's fine. We'll keep
from another sort of systems kind of piece of work is that we've just finalised our system KPIs and targets as a team, so we can we've set those and we can implement those, and then all of our reporting will be aligned to those. So that'll give us more of a baseline to measure off. So I can come to audit and risk and say that this is how we're performing in relation to those KPIs and targets. So that'll be a benefit going forward as well.
Brilliant. Yeah. Well, that was actually then going to be my next question. Adam, was one of the concerns I take as a risk chair is always when we're on an improvement program, how confident are we that we have got site coverage of those risks in an immediate sense. In other words, the world doesn't stop while we get our improvement program implemented.
Yeah.
And our incident record on page 62 shows us that we are running risks every day.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to over egg it, but you know, that events happen. So perhaps really, Andrew, you're the visible presence that we still have the hands on the tools, down there on the implementation side, which is giving us at least some sense of understanding and ability to try and manage the immediate risks that we face. Is that a fair statement to make?
I think for the reporting, prior to this year, we had a pretty terrible reporting system. It was quite over convoluted and complicated. So I spent 6 months on the project working with them to build it to fit NCC in a nutshell. And a lot of work for myself and system advisor and coordinator to go out in the water business and show the team how to use it. And it's not a scary tool. If you're going to report something, it can actually help you change the process of whatever you're doing. So that uptick in reporting, I think we've noticed quite a big trend. So we went live, I think it was March, 1st of March, and it's kind of been cruising up. But we're getting more reporting, more data, because that's what we're sort of chasing. So I think a lot of that is actually, we're now reflecting what's actually happening in the business.
Yeah.
And
so if I could jump in there. So when I see 131 incidences, actually we're just reporting what has always been the current state, not a new risky state that we live in or something.
No, I don't think it is. And for our high risk work, so stuff that the Free Waters team, city and infrastructure carry out, I did a large piece of work on that. My first time I was here, and then when I came back, tidied it up because I come from a high risk background. So there's the parts of the business that I focused on when I first came back to really tidy up. So we have good, robust systems, particularly around confined space, because inadvertently works have come asking a question about a particular confined space area that we had, and we got nothing from it because we basically did everything prior to once we knew the hazard become apparent, all the controls were put in place. We could document and show what we'd done from the moment the first alert was to when they stepped on site. So I think for our boots on the ground high risk work, we have quite robust systems. It's just
Bruce, I think one of the sorry, apologies. I was going to say one of the, I suppose, Jess alluded to it before. I think whilst my work is focused on the strategic risk management, Andrew and the team are very much on the operational side. And managing risks. So while it takes that time to build the system and work on those strategic risks, we've got a team dedicated to that operational risk management. So we can give that confidence that it is being managed, with Andrew and our assistant advisor and our coordinator.
Brilliant. That's comforting to hear. Because as I said, it's one thing for me and I love the improvement program and, confident that you've got resources devoted to it. And it's great to actually meet you, Andrew, because you get a visible sort of physical sense of actually what we're doing on the ground, which is superb. So I'm much comforted by that. Any other questions for Andrew or indeed Adam here before we let the man go and rest in bed? It sounds like he needs to. We all good? All good. Yeah. Okay. Can we move to the resolution then, please, that we receive the officer's recommendation? I'll move that. Sally, thank you. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? It's carried. Brilliant. Thank you, Andrew, for stepping in at last moment. Adam, thank you for zooming in. Appreciate you. Perhaps that's your risk management approach, is to make certain even if you crook your hair to see what the guy's going to say. Oh, what do we got here?
All good. Thank you.
Brilliant. Hey, all the best, man. I hope you get well. That's my health and safety report, in which case we now need to, I take it,
Internal
what is my
audit.
time? I'm not sensing. No idea my time.
Only 10 past 10.
Good, we're going well. Can we move to therefore the quarterly risk report? This is another really good report. Put a lot of time on this one. Can I just say up front, well done at ELT. Yes. ELT are owning up. Carol, what are you laughing for, Carolyn?
No.
Is there? We haven't embellished the paper, have we?
We haven't.
This is tremendous. I love the fact that ELT
We should be
are taking ownership.
congratulations to Alistair.
As long as I'm not committing a faux pas, well done,
No, we're
ELT. I want to say that out loud, and I want it in the minutes, actually, Carolyn.
We're actually feeling quite proud of ourselves. We think we might have potentially cracked it finally.
Good,
I
good,
feel like
good.
we've been going around in circles for a little while around our risk reporting, but we are very
Oh, I
grateful
think,
to Alistair, who's done a great job on this.
I think this is
Yeah,
quite a
Morena,
step up
guys.
style change.
Yeah.
So Alistair, we're welcome to the meeting. Thank you for being here online.
No worries.
Very happy to hear what what I should really hear rather than me trying to interpret. You're in your hands.
Yeah, so do ask the questions to determine that as we work through it. So I'm also a bit sick like Adam, but sounds like I'm faring a bit better than him, so that's good. Yeah, so we have some recommendations here, which is to see our updated list of strategic risks and hopefully support those, and also support the uplift program that we have put together. We've slowed that down a little bit just to really determine what we're trying to achieve there. So I haven't got any dates for you. It's really just look at the categories we're looking at and make sure you support that, and then we'll go away and do a program to achieve that. So yeah, the background summary, we have done a strategic risk workshop with ELT, which was very interesting. And that involved checking our current risks and the ELT risk owners, and seeing any gaps to our current strategic priorities, and creating a new profile. So that was pretty useful. As I said, we've drafted an uplift program, and Crow has also completed their risk management framework review, and we're just waiting to receive that back, which will further inform our uplift program that we want to achieve. I'm working with Dave, who's away at the moment, but just to try and dig into our risk management framework a bit more. And so we've tried to implement some rationalizations, things like if new risks have been set up, but they haven't been done properly, we've actually made them inactive until they are set up properly, because they automatically report at their most at the highest level, and it just makes the metrics that we're seeing less useful. So there's a few other things we're trying to rationalize as well, which I'll get into, and such as focusing on extreme and high out of appetite risks at the moment. Until we work through those properly and get them all sort of set up properly, we can't really focus on everything at the moment. All right, I'll get into some of the detail. So for our strategic risks, I've provided a table there of what our new profile looks like. And in the appendix, I did an attachment of how it aligned to our current risks. Most of them do align to the current risks that we have. I think there's just a couple of new ones, which was the security and privacy of data and information. A lot of that's probably been captured down at the operational level, but we thought it would be useful to bring that up to the strategic level. And we also wanted a risk just to generally cover council reputation. We're still to determine exactly what we put into that. It's probably going to be covering things like our council mark report and satisfaction surveys. So we're still to determine what is inside that. And actually for all of these, we do need to do a deep dive underneath them, so we can manage them properly, just refresh that. A lot of it's in the system at the moment, but some of them, like for instance, number one, the people and capability, we generalize that one so we can really do a bit of work at the lower level to determine what are the important aspects we're trying to improve there.
Brilliant. Sorry, I think you might be looking for a bit of a lead from here now as to questions. Is that right, Alistair?
For sure. Yes.
Was there anything else? Sorry, I'll let you just do whatever your points are, and then I'll open up for discussion.
Oh, really? That's the updated strategic risk profile. If you look into the appendix, as I said, you can see what they used to be, but I suppose you can also see across in the third column the strategic link, priority link. A lot of them cross over and cover other strategic priorities, but this is what we sort of brainstorm as a group, and yes, we're just looking for support on this profile.
Brilliant. Well, as I said, my opening comment was well done ELT, and actually well done Alistair as well, that you've obviously sponsored this with ELT to get this going. This is incredibly encouraging. I want to stress that. So now I have the right to ask my questions and probe a bit further, I guess, but I'll do that second. Members committee, Sally?
Thank you, through the chair. First of all, yeah, I want to compliment the team too. This is a massive improvement, I think, on what initially came to us. I think probably when you took over, Alistair, and you were handed it along with joining Dave. So yeah, it is we've come in leaps and bounds, so it's amazing. Thank you. My sticking point with this, and I don't know where full council governance sort of sits in regards to confirming some of the decisions around risk ownership, etc. But I have a real sticking point with number 6, which is the new strategic risk of failing to meet Te Tiriti or Waitangi commitments and obligations, and that risk sitting with our pouwhakarai. I understand the alignment, but in my mind, that risk from a legislative perspective would sit with the CEO. So I just, I don't really know what my question is, but I'm just
Making an observation.
and wondering how do we bring, I suppose, governors' voices into this to confirm or to question.
So I've got the governor's. Look at me looking at my notes. I want to bring. I want to bring the governor's voice question into it, but let's deal with that at the end.
Sure. Okay.
Because I think at this stage, I'd like us to focus on indeed what I sense we've got here, which is actually how's management going to manage. But a very valid question, which I want to endorse entirely, is actually where's the governor's voice in this? So that's missing, if I can be blunt, from the Uplift program. But let's come back to that. Let's look at the moment. So to distill your question, really a critical thing here is, have we got the settings right around ownership of that risk? And you've made the point sensitively that actually it probably is a chief executive owned risk rather than the pouwhakarai, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And perhaps we can take that one on board. Any other questions or points people like to raise?
Just an observation really is a real theme for me coming through in terms of the leadership from ELT. It was in the last paper, it's coming through again here, which I think is to be commended. And as a consequence, I think there'll be good progress made.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's a great paper. Yeah.
Good. Thank you for that, David. I agree with you entirely. I think we're all agreeing strongly on that. Righty. Just a couple of comments from me. Obviously, I was interested in the steps of the Uplift program, Alistair. Obviously, this could change a wee bit, or its direction could change a wee bit once you've received the Crow Risk Maturity Report, correct?
Yes. Bruce, can I just raise a point, back on the strategic risks?
Yeah, sure.
With the governor's voice piece, I suppose the first thing was just making sure we weren't straying too far from what our previous strategic risks were, and if they were still relevant. So most of them, as I said, only 2 were new, and we felt we didn't stray too far from them. And we also checked it against the previous PwC workshop, which was sort of done properly. And we didn't redo it all. We just picked it up. So I just wanted to raise that point.
Yeah.
But obviously bringing these in front of the governors to review is important.
Yeah. I'm going to raise towards the end because I think the Uplift program only mentions the risk committee once and councillors once, and I don't think that's the right quantum if I'm looking at it from a risk perspective. But I look at things, so to cover that semi quickly, this is about risk management, and that's your responsibility, not mine.
Yeah.
But we need to, in the Uplift program, think about what is, and you've raised this, Sally, what's our role as risk governors, and where does that fit within the Uplift program? Because actually, we need to uplift our performance at this committee as well. That's not a negative assessment. It's just that we are on the process of development ourselves, so that needs to be in there. Plus, we need to have a discussion about, and you've raised this, Sally, risk appetite, and actually what ultimately we are looking to see as being managed needs to be. I think all of council affirmed as is risk appetite. So you can't do that. I don't think you can do that well if we haven't got this foundation in place. So I'm not taking away from this work. All I'm looking for from the governance question is Uplift management, and what is that and? which
Yep.
has got the governance end to it. So there's no qualification from me about what I've got here, but I'm looking for more. I'm just being greedy. Okay.
No, I
So
actually,
we'll come
I
back
actually-
to that. If we can just leave that at the moment, let's come
Okay.
back to that. I'd still like to focus
Please.
on the core thing you're asking us to do. Are we happy with the uplift
Uplift
program at a management level? Are we happy with the risk categorisation as ELT has got it? Then we'll come back to the governance issue. So I'm still on that uplift program. So look, comfortable with personally where that's at. I think all I'm just noting there is that clearly the Crow risk maturity report may well give rise to a tweak on that, because I presume you've got to see it to know whether in fact there's stuff there as far as that's concerned. So this Alistair talks to me, my one comment in question around the uplift program is again affirmation of the strong ELT role and what you've got here. What part of the uplift program, and to some extent you got it in your papers, but I just want to check this one through. What's your improvement program, your maturity uplift for staff generally?
So that's the very first point, is the training piece. Really. So Dave has tailored some training to the audit risk committee, so the governors as well as ELT and tier 3 and 4 managers. So so we can give an understanding of responsibilities as well as processes for risk management. As a starting point, that's a key piece of the uplift program.
Look, I get that. I would be interested to know ultimately through the implementation process how well risk is integrated into our decision making at all levels of the organisation.
Yes.
I mean, risk management ultimately is just good business. It's not a special exercise or discipline.
Yes.
So I guess I'm giving you an outcome question and challenge, which is actually education's one thing, but actually I'm looking for it's moved the dial in the way in which management and staff generally think of risk and integrate it into their decision making, which ultimately should have an impact on actually how we talk about it at council level as well. What are the risks associated with our decision making? So I'm look, you've given me a very good answer. The uplift program is 7 simple lines, and I agree. I'm just trying to ask the qualitative or add the qualitative bit to
Bruce,
it.
there's
I'd
a
be keen
further
to understand that.
there's a further bit of an answer, is that's kind of what some of that that section on the risk maturity matrix is talking about.
Yeah.
So we already had a bit of an understanding on where that is falling behind where it should be, from previous work, and also some of this work with the Crow review will inform that further. So Dave has put these in here from his thoughts on what we need to do, such as risk management communication plans defined and implemented, and all these things. They're really trying to integrate it across what we do in the organisation. But I think we will get a lot out of the Crow review as well, in that respect.
Yeah, look, that's really good, and I mean, I don't want to make a meal too much more, other than perhaps sort of giving you a sense of looking at this, where my questions were obviously as a committee, and I would hope the LT would be prepared to do this. We just need to have the optics on the uplift program and it being carried out. And in fact, believe it or not, I see it as a project. What I'd love to know is what are the risks around the project. Believe it or not, risk on risk. But in other words, I think there needs to be a bit like we have with health and safety, where you've got the strategic program and its own report. I'd be keen to see how this gets itself fleshed out, and as a committee, we should be concerned about that.
Some of those risks can be things like too much risk across the organisation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's something that Alistair and I have spent quite a lot of time talking about, is actually how we simplify this throughout the organisation and actually pare it back, because kind of the more we put into this and over engineer it, the less people focus on it.
Really
so actually making it, and I think the point that Alistair's making, that is kind of noted here in the risk maturity matrix, around making it a business as usual part of the process, is the outcome that we're hoping to achieve. I think it's as much as people
Yeah.
go and have a conversation with their management accountant when they're setting up a
Yeah.
project or a new activity. It's considering, what's the risk and what are the risks I should be thinking of when I'm thinking about, setting up a new activity or delivering a new piece of work. And it's just part of everything that they do without over-engineering the processes
Yeah.
we would hope to get to.
Which
It's a
is
good point.
Yeah.
harder done than said, or however you say that. It's,
Alistair, if you ever think I'm trying to ask for more detail or make it more complicated, you've got all rights to do it, because I, as a small aside, I can remember my first experience as a manager being asked to comment on my risk environment. And Karen, this is when I was in the audit office. And I got asked, what's my biggest risk? And I said, is my auditors give a wrong opinion. Oh, yeah, okay, tick. One risk. Second one, then they said, so what other risks you got? And I said, that's it, mate. That's the biggest strategic risk I've got in this place. And he says, no, you got to have more. And I said, what do you mean you've got to have more? And my point being, I lost interest then in the risk process in the office at that stage, because actually I was form filling. I wasn't actually doing anything that was real. So I agree. That's a long way of coming back to your point. What is it that really counts? We should be focusing on that.
So I think that's just in terms of the dashboard that we've put
Yeah.
together for ELT, that
Yeah.
seems to work with the ELT. They like dashboards.
Yeah.
Keeping it simple and something on one
the
page.
diagram.
So
Yeah.
from a strategic risk perspective, that's the conversation that counts for the
Yeah.
ELT around where are the gaps, what are we uncertain about.
Brilliant. So that's good. So love the uplift program. Love to see more how it's been implemented and effectively with the outcomes. So guys, we've been asked also to essentially endorse ELT's current position around the strategic risks, and as you quite ably said, a couple of additional ones have been added on. So I'd like to ask the committee, and I'm looking here at page 66 in the table, the simplified version. What do we reckon? Any comments from folk as far as this is concerned?
No,
Make sense?
that sure does.
We're all looking.
Yeah.
Silence is pretty much approval.
Comfortable with it? Yes, certainly.
Pardon?
Comfortable with it?
Comfortable. Okay. Well, I've got a couple of comments. So, but they're all affirmative. Other than Carolyn, I'm sorry, but funding and financial management is an area that I think this committee needs to up its performance in, and I would like to do that. Actually, I don't think funding, for me personally, and this reflects the bent I'm on, so you can have a crack at me, Carolyn. Actually, I know you're the owner, Jess, but I'm looking at poor old Carolyn who does the hard yards here, I think, on this one. I actually think it's a higher level. Actually, the management of funding and financing is only an output of our financial strategy.
Yeah.
And I'm much more interested, and I think the strategic risk that we have is actually around our financial strategy. It's not to say the one that we've got is wrong, by the way, but actually implementing the financial strategy and actually the slings and arrows of operating in this environment and how that goes becomes more important from a governance, because that's why I'm giving you that lens, a governance lens, than actually funding and financial management, which might be just, does that treasury management policy, do we have a treasury management policy and does it work well? Yes, I'm interested, but sort of like, nah, that's just, I expect that. So what would I mean? We need to have a funding in place. Our financial strategy needs to essentially enable the sustainable delivery of services over generations without caning the ratepayer, right? Something of that nature. And that's what our financial strategy is aimed at. So consequently, at a strategic risk level, and I'll be asking Jess, ELT to be monitoring that with us, what are the key components of that strategy? What really counts? So it's things like, believe it or not, CapEx delivery. Because how we deliver our CapEx determines our debt, which determines our interest rate, which determines our depreciation, which then influences whether our financial strategy is on target or not. I mean, let's face it, if we have another uplift in asset valuations over the life of this current financial strategy, which gives rise to, 2 or 3 years ago, we were all facing 30 to 50% uplift in depreciation because of revaluation. That suddenly puts our sustainable financial strategy at risk. So I'm looking for the nimbleness, the agility of the organisation to monitor its overall program. Now that's at a higher level, a more strategic level than funding and financial management. Now, if that means the same thing to you, that's good. But funding and financial under the Local Government Act is a particular little piece that relates to treasury management and amongst other things. And I know that's not what you mean. So I'm looking for, Alistair, words to sometimes mean things. I'm personally would be happier if we raised this to a more strategic level. I'm open to push back and debate on that. The other one, and I'm comfortable, I'm going to sign all these off from my perspective, Alistair.
Bruce, I think that's really useful because, to be honest, I don't actually know what's actually all of the lower level setup of that risk is, but I mean that provides a lot of guidance on setting up that risk. So yeah, it's quite useful.
Well, we're starting the conversation, so I'm happy to have to, I've now made too much noise, so I've got to be able to help you guys understand what I'm saying, and you can work out whether you like it or not, and ultimately whether council likes it or not. I'm always interested in council reputation being a particular risk, and I'm going to accept it. I think you've actually even fleshed out one or two things that you want to have as metrics to understand that, and it probably does warrant its own, but I think the point I'd be making is I've generally steered away from having reputation as an individual strategic risk, because quite frankly, failing on any of these, reputation's impacted. But I sense in the way that you and ELT have talked about this, you've got some particular things that you're wanting to monitor, and so I want to really endorse that actually we keep this in.
That's a bit of a work in progress about what the lower level will look like, but there are a few key things such as our council mark report, which really does drive a lot, and it's interrelated to a lot of the stuff above in the table as well. And also some of our satisfaction surveys and some other important pieces, which I'm still learning about, but there's some out there. So
brilliant. So look, I'm comfortable it's there. It's not a big drama. By the way, the other thing I said about the appendices is, just in the way that I've led a bit of a discussion, or I've lectured you people about financial risk. I actually quite like some of the statements that we have around the current strategic risk. So that's the second column, Jess. I have no trouble if we have the simplicity of the left-hand column, the shaded column. Because it means something to us and it's driving our that's great. But I wouldn't want to lose some of the statements which describe that better.
Yes.
That's all I'm trying to reflect here. So perhaps it's not so much replacement, it's a wee bit of and.
No, that's really helpful. Thank you.
So and I know you haven't lost them because obviously you got to interpret this just as we've talked about council reputation. So look, well done. I think this is, from my perspective, a good thing going through. So that gets us back to, essentially, from my perspective, and unless my members want to add to what I've said, that then gets us back to, Alistair, the issue, which is so this is about risk management. Now, what about risk governance? This is Sally's end question. What are you planning in that area? Are you planning anything at all, or would you like some advice?
That was actually some good feedback, because you are right that the uplift program is really probably focused on below the governance level mainly, because we're not on. I don't feel we're not on top of that process to flow it through to the Audit Risk Committee. So that's what it's sort of been focused on. And yes, there's the Audit and Risk Committee training piece, but apart from that, I suppose it is a bit light in that area. So yes, I would like some guidance and advice.
Well, look, I think if the committee are happy, could I suggest we leave that to an offline discussion, and whoever wants to be on it, we should do that, because it's a bit workshoppy in its nature rather than necessarily formal discussion. But to give you a hint, Alistair, I think we do need to meet with full council
Agree.
And we need to talk through essentially the 12.
Yeah.
And we need to have a discussion with full council about risk appetite. I always have the view, by the way, from a risk governance, we need to do that roughly on an annual basis. Now it's just a wee bit too early. We're probably all a bit tired from trying to get through that 3-year plan, but my point is we need to get through that 3-year plan because I think we need to look at these strategic risks in light of what you've adopted as the 3-year plan objectives, because in the long run, they must be the most critical things that we want to achieve. Our strategic risks should be aligned. Now, I can tell you now, we'll come up with affirming these risks, but I just want us to go through with council actually making that alignment, allowing councillors to understand why these risks are why these strategic risks are the ones that we as governors, as a risk committee should be focused on, and to have the assurance that management are focused on it. But also we need to have an agreement, what is our settings around risk appetite. Now, again, I don't think they've probably moved too much, but it's just good practice to check in. The bit that possibly is more workshoppy, and I would invite you to, Alistair, for you and I to have a discussion, but I'd welcome any of my committee members to join this as well. I think I've shared before, I think there's some other things we should be adding to actually our risk committee agenda as standing items to better work with you on understanding how the management of risk is being in. So absolutely, for instance, support, here's an example, absolutely support the ELT doing their work deep dives. That's tremendous. But, you know, I'll be up front as a committee with that now. Well, once you're comfortable that's in place, and I want to stress this, I want to give you guys time to do this. As a committee, we should do a deep dive with that risk owner.
Yes.
Is part of our formal meeting to understand the current context, the environment, and the current settings of that strategic risk. So I'm adding a bit of work to us, but that then starts to bring back, and I'm looking here more at the systemic or the systems question, what do we as risk governors do? Okay, so we could choreo that outside of the meeting a bit further, but I think all I'm just trying to reflect here, Jess, it's almost a case of, but what about me? But the risk governance piece needs to be added, to make this comprehensive. What I would want to say there is I want us as a committee, if we pass these, and I assume we will pass these resolutions, Jess, I want you guys and Alistair to have the chance to really embed this at ELT.
Yeah.
My best defence is to let you guys, of risk, is to let you guys get on and do the job. But then I'd like to graft it better back into the organisation if I could. Sorry, into the committee and ultimately the governance if I could. You happy with that, Sally?
I am happy with that. I think the next bit in my mind as well is that I was starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable with this sitting just here and how do we actually get it to full council, because it didn't feel as though, just having it in our minutes from our committee meeting was adequate, that they certainly need to be aware and involved, full council. So that was the other side of the thing. And you picked up on the there's a couple of agenda items this time around, this being one of them, which I thought should be a standing agenda item for us moving forward and form part of a work plan, really. And, for our membership to have visibility over our work program and really start driving some of that as well. So,
good.
Yeah.
Music to my ears, Sally.
We've thought about like the work program, Bruce. I think we chatted about it in our in our meeting we had, just about what's the annual audit risk.
That's right. Routine, rhythm. Yeah.
Yes.
Could I just ask Sally, just we're sort of in flight here, but we do need to move on the risk governance front as well. Could I suggest, and because I would see this done elsewhere, and you can tell me Carolyn, whether this is possible or not. Should we attach this table as part of the second resolution? So in other words, what goes up in our council minutes is that the Audit and Risk Committee approves
Mm,
council's updated strategic lists,
Yeah.
and the table is attached to the actual motion,
Yeah.
or
Well,
it
I'll just
sits in the
I'll
motion,
just
so that
include-
actually
They're
that
aware.
means that even with your colleagues quickly looking through this, they'll see something and that might help. That be helpful?
Very much so.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, that's a really good start.
I'm including figure 1. Is that correct?
Figure 1, yes. So it just forms part of B.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
With
we
an
approve it. We
amendment
just
to
attach the table.
To the name of with an amendment to the name of.
Oh,
number 5?
look, I'm telling you how I'm interpreting it, Jess. If it mean seriously, and
Give
I
us
mean this
flexibility to
genuinely,
rename that.
if that is
Yep.
still the most meaningful phrase for ELT, I'm going to live with it happily. But
Okay.
I'm giving
You're
you
happy for us
notice
to
what I'm
rename that.
come at you guys over.
Thank you.
Is that okay?
Sure.
Did you want to change it?
Oh, I thought that we might rename the name of Strategic Risk 5, but if you're happy for us to.
I'll make
Well,
five.
take it on advice.
Okay,
You
thank
you
you.
guys want to move it. I mean, I would call it
Financial strategy.
financial or sustainable financial strategy or something
Yeah,
like that.
I'd be happy
That
to
would be
rename that.
personally more meaningful to me.
Yes, I'm happy with that
Are
too.
you happy with that? Well,
Yeah.
we're making no
Thank
good
you.
question.
Sustainable financial strategies, that
Yeah,
we're saying for number
yeah.
1.
Yeah. Thank you.
Or I mean, you got them as simple words. You could say failing to have
A
or
financial-
implement one, but I mean, let's
Yeah.
just call it the financial strategy. It
Yeah.
should be great. And hopefully, Karen, that's music to your ears as an auditor.
Mhm.
Okay, so we have 3 motions. We received the report. We approve council strategic risks with the addition of that, and we support the draft risk management uplift program. I'd almost like to add a D that the committee moves a vote of thanks to ELT for its work in this area, and that includes you, Alistair. I don't know whether you're part of ELT or not, but I do appreciate the work. So I'd like to suggest that we add that as an actual motion, because Alistair, I'd like to leave you the impression we're really happy. This is great. So well done. So if we could add D, that we pass a vote of thanks to ELT and Alistair for their work on risk management and its program and its development of a uplift program. I'd love to have that in there as well. So with that, I'm going to move that. Given it's my mate. Thank you, Sally. Any discussion on the motion? Let's put it there. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, it's carried. Sweet.
Thanks, guys.
Sky
Thanks,
is-
Alistair.
Thank you.
he's
No
not
worries.
Thanks,
gonna-
Alistair. Hey, get well, mate.
Yep, thank you.
He's not logging in till 11:30.
Yep.
Whether you want to adjourn and go into PX
Yeah, that's a
and
good
then come
idea.
back out, so we're not hanging around just waiting. for
Yeah. I
PX.
think let's
Yeah.
go into PX then if that's because in essence I'm at the end of my
Open agenda.
open program, aren't I? Other than the contract management report. Brilliant. We've dealt with the minor matters. So you're suggesting I adjourn?
I'm just saying if we adjourn and we move into public excluded.
Okay. Yes, we can adjourn the open session, then pass the motion to go into PX.
We'll just
Yeah.
adjourn and then we'll come back in.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to, do I need to move that? You want me to move a motion, or I can just declare as chair that we adjourn?
No, we just say we're going to adjourn.
Okay, we are going to adjourn. Thank you.
Oh,
I've said that.
yeah.
Oh. I'm in deep strife here. Sorry, I'm not mocking process. I
We're
probably
going
am.
to adjourn this part of the meeting.
Yeah, that's right.
But you'll still need to
Move into PX. Yeah. So I propose that we'll do that, and then we'll take a break. So can I just move us refer us to page 71. We will then. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Magic. Well done. That's superb. Okay, power of my voice. Not. Let's go to item. Sorry, I need to get. Pardon? Item 3. Rightio. So, Sharon, did you kick off? What's the best way to deal with who's? I'm open to a bit of lead from you guys as to what we've got here, please.
I'm happy to talk you through it.
Thanks, Sharon. Appreciate that. Go for it.
So first of all, I just wanted to say that I think the internal audit process is a really positive process. It's a good way to see what we do well and possibly what needs to improve. So the internal audit on contract management identified in total 11 risks, 3 high, 7 medium and 1 low. So focusing on those high risks, it noted that there was a lack of contract management planning and strategy, incomplete contract management framework, so the systems, processes and documents that we use, and that there were some compliance issues around how financial delegations have been applied. Interestingly, some of the issues identified were less about managing the contract and also ensuring that you have the right contract in place. So there was reference to early market engagement and understanding the impact of contracts. And I mention that because it felt that if we focused purely on just contract management at the tail end, we may be focusing on how well we manage that contract rather than whether it's the right contract in the first instance. So we've viewed it really as the scope being around how do we improve procurement and contract management, and seeing both of those activities as a continuum. Many of the risks, interestingly, echoed the findings from an earlier internal audit that was completed in 2021. So that was an internal audit of procurement and tendering. So again, reinforce the need to maybe look at both of those things together. The key outcome is to put together an improvement plan that addresses those key risks. So that takes the form of contract management and procurement improvement plan. Doesn't particularly throw off the tongue. I put that together to highlight different packages of work that can address the risks that were identified through both of those audits. That's going to ELT on Tuesday, so Tuesday the 18th. And the reason for taking that to ELT first is that I think that work needs to be viewed. There will be an impact on internal resources and potentially some costs to complete that work. So I think we need ELT to look at that and have a look in the context of some of the other changes that are happening at council and some of the other things that are happening, to see where some of those priorities should lie. And then following the review by ELT, what I hope to do is fine tune that improvement plan so that that can come back to the next meeting of audit and risk in September.
Look, that's magnanimous of you, and I think, by the way, quite correct that you defer this to, not defer this, but you refer this to ELT, because indeed that's actually a really good point. What is our total corporate priorities, and where does it sit within that? So I think that just gets me back to the risk paper, Jess. That reflects the value of what we're actually doing here, because we could look at this individually and think the world is either good or is falling over, in which case this needs to be fixed tomorrow. But if it comes back to us with not only what might be refined, if it needs to be refined, but also that sense of priority. It's a bit like the discussion we had with you, Talia, at the start, which does this really count? And so I'd be strongly guided by where ELT sit on this one. Look, obviously I don't want to overly anticipate what the plan looks like, other than in terms of my preparation on it. Actually, this is the real thing for us going forward. So I would hope we would be, you would be happy for us to oversee how that plan, whatever form it takes, whatever size it is, in terms of its implementation and the risks that go with that, so we can see how we go. So that's really superb. Okay.
Without going into too much detail, the plan effectively chunks one piece of work into process improvements. So that's really trying to make sure that we're compliant and standardized in terms of the approach that we take to both procurement and contract management. It's about building efficiency. The second part is around how we become more effective and have a strategy that's overlaid on our project pipeline, and how we may be able to deliver that in a smarter way using procurement. So it's trying to look at that efficiency and effectiveness.
That's music to my ears, because if you were here listening to my concepts around financial risk, one of my key drivers is capital delivery. And you don't know it yet, Caroline, but I have some views about what the committee should be seeing around capital delivery, but that would be at the back end of this pipeline to give us a sense of what actually is being delivered. So again, subject to it fitting within the priorities set by ELT. That looks really, really promising. So that's good. Right.
I was.
Sorry, that sounds terrible. Throw my pen down. Sorry, I feel like we've done good work.
I don't want to anticipate before Sharon comes to ELT, but we have actually brought that forward. It was we were planning to. She was scheduled to come to a much later ELT meeting, and we've moved things around to actually have her come and speak to us earlier because I actually see this as being probably the priority. This piece of work being the biggest priority, because I think that capital delivery and us achieving or looking at some mechanisms or interventions to actually fast track or actually, for us to achieve that capital delivery in ways that we haven't been able to achieve it in the past is probably the biggest priority for us in terms of the programming and the strategic procurement delivery of that is probably our biggest priority at the moment. And we are going to need to find ways to fund the resourcing requirements that Sharon is going to ask us for. So that is something that is sitting on the table for us to consider.
Just a wee bit of sort of processy question. So we develop a procurement and management improvement plan, as you say, trips off the tongue, Sharon. I just noticed Alistair's title is business improvement. Who owns the improvement plan? Is that you or Alistair?
Up until now, it has been me.
Yeah,
That's correct.
Yeah.
So
I'm just interested.
Yeah,
Actually, I mean, because there's lots of improvement going on here. I just wanted
We do, and something that I would really like to achieve over the next 12 months is to have sort of an enterprise view of all of those business improvements and corporate maturity plans, improvement plans that we have from an enterprise at an enterprise level.
Yes.
And in terms of our prioritization of those, it would be nice to see those at an enterprise level. That is ideally what we would like Alistair to be doing. But at the moment,
even though Sharon might be the deliverer of the
absolutely.
But
to have a coordinated plan of those across the organisation is where we would like Alistair's work to take him. But getting him a little bit of capacity to do that and be able to pull that plan together.
Because again, I mean, the reason behind my question is not really about ownership, but it's actually, again, it's a bit like the health and safety strategy question I ask. While we have an improvement plan going on, we have existing delivery and the procurement expertise, advice, centre of excellence, whatever we want to call ourselves, operating in that sphere as well. So how do we bundle this all together and make certain no one person's
That's definitely on my to-do list, is to get us to that point where we can view that and we can see that. Definitely in an enterprise level. And I'd like to have that. I mean, that is definitely what Alistair's role is to pull that together at a more contextual level. So we could see that, but he just hasn't had capacity to do that. He's been really focused on supporting sort of the 3-year plan at an analysis level up until now, but we are anticipating getting there.
What I have included in the plan is a governance structure. So because we don't have that enterprise view at the moment, I've parceled the work into different packages so that ELT can opt to do some or none or all. But that governance structure is, in the first instance, and this is only a recommendation, that it would go through to the infrastructure director, to corporate director, and to Caroline to gain a view, and that's to cover the financials and capital delivery aspects. But there's also an advisory group which includes risk, potentially legal, health and safety. So that would be where Alistair would start to come in. So in the absence of that enterprise view, I've tried to put a structure together that goes sideways and upwards.
Well, I mean, first thing for me is, sorry, Sally.
That was my question. So
Okay.
thank you, Sharon, for sharing that.
I'm not surprised about it. We've got our project managers assessing good project governance. So and I think our valid interest is not only just the outcome, but actually what is the risk schedule that's attached to that project. That's the thing that we need, so we can support whatever is decided the way it's implemented, although I hear it's high priority. So
Well, the thing that stood out to me the most in the Crow report was actually just the introduction, 1.1, which was one of Council's critical governance obligations is to ensure that the quality, quantity and cost of services being supplied through contractual arrangement are in accordance with the outputs detailed in the contract specification. So to me, that kind of encapsulated everything. It made sense in regards to the fact that you guys questioned the scope of the recommendation, and you actually had widened that as well when looking to put the plan and the framework together. And yeah, the missing piece without having the plan or the framework really was,
Yep.
you know, the governance setup and how it will flow through.
Yep.
So yeah, so thank you.
We've got our
And I suspect the dashboard that you come up with and want at ELT is the dashboard that I'm looking for as well, by the way. So you know, perhaps I could say, Sharon, as your governance group and project works, you might want to consider just again a little short chat with, can I say me, for what it's worth, because I'm trying to drive my program. I have some expectation that we'll get some reporting around capital delivery. So, but I don't want anything that is in addition to what is just good needed information for management. In other words, that's why I say what I suspect you need, and you said ELT likes dashboards. I suspect I want to see that dashboard as well. So we can just allow for that. How are we going? Is our man with us?
yes, I think he was in
please?
the lobby. I can see
He's
it.
in the lobby.
Well, I can
So
see it
just
popping.
just remind, his name is Mark.
Mark.
Cervantes.
Here he is.
Brilliant. Hello there, Mark. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Believe it or not, you're in the dark, which is probably what we think of Australians, but I wonder if you've got a light that you can put on above your head.
Sure. Let me just set it up. Hold on.
Yeah. Oh, look, Mark, we know you're there anyway, so that's nice. But all you are is a silhouette on our screen. So so there we go. Mark, welcome to the meeting. We have been running reasonably well the time, and in fact, we're in advance of time. So Jess and Sharon have given us oh, look at that. I can start to see your face a bit better now. Well, oh no,
Yep.
it might be too much.
Oops.
Well done, Mark. We've had a chance to have a discussion more generally about our response to your report, which I think is positive. We've been hearing about the procurement and, get it right, and management improvement plan that Sharon's going to recommend to the executive leadership team be implemented in response to actually your report, but actually I think the broader context of what you've picked up from elsewhere as well, Sharon. So in effect, we are affirming of that. So I think we've got ourselves to the point we know we're on the right track. But given, and thank you for being with us this morning, I don't think we're going to keep you too long. Is there anything in your report you would like to highlight or bring out from the observations of what your work and your team did here for us at Napier? Thank you.
Well, good morning again, everyone. Well, in relation to the report, the report has been a while drafted and has been worked with the management until the finalization. Just to note that there were some disagreements with the report, but we are broadly comfortable with this one. And we have also added in for any of those disagreements to highlight additional comments and to in order to take note. But yeah, in general, we are comfortable in closing out and have finalized the report in relation with the management responses. So nothing in particular for me to highlight. I believe that Caroline as well as Sharon have already shared the report with ARC. So yep.
Brilliant, we have. And look, I'll just refer you to, I think it's page 5 of your report. It's page 22, by the way, of our agenda. And look, it's worth it just for the want of 30 seconds, Mark. It summarises the high, medium, low risk findings, essentially the recommendations that come out of it. Is there anything in particular you'd want us to focus on from those findings if I was to refer you to that page?
That's on the, perhaps if we go to the summary of findings, if you would notice that there were a couple of high risks that we have indicated. In particular, the first one, which is a contract management planning strategy that needs to be developed. for the second one, it talks about the contract management framework documents that needs to be up to date to include the contract management plan in accordance with the audit of the Office of New Zealand. And third one being the enforcement of the financial delegations. So overall, I believe that when we talk about the philosophy and when we talk about the framework, um, I think the management is in agreement to have some sort of an overarching contract management planning strategy, as well as to get the policies and procedures being up to date and the financial delegations be strictly enforced. So those are the key high risks that we have found or we have identified during the audit.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Mark. That's really helpful. It's interesting because I noticed under 5.1 that I saw that was one of the first points where I think I sensed disagreement. But equally, I'm pleased to hear from you that you're saying that the getting past the title, but actually the response from management is one that broadly you're happy with. So that's good to know. I think it's important for the minutes we recognise that management's responses overall have met the satisfaction of our internal auditor. That's really important. Any questions or comments for Mark on his report? I said 30 seconds, Mark. I've probably taken a minute and a half of your time. So thank you very much for being with us this morning. I do appreciate that. It's spurred a very good discussion here for us so far today, and we're certainly looking forward to how management address your recommendations. So as a risk committee, thank you for your time this morning, and I wish you well the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Just probably to highlight as well, not in relation to contract management, but in relation to our ongoing audits. So we do have the risk management audit as well as the fees and levies audit. And we target to report it probably in the next audit and risk committee. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Look, and you may well be back on the line for that. Yes, we've been updated on the risk management work and where your work fits within that. So we're certainly looking forward to that maturity assessment and when it comes through. And I think Alice has indicated, Mark, most likely you're back online at our next meeting, which is September-ish, I think, or something. So I look forward to that, Mark. Appreciate that.
Thanks so much, Mr. Chair.
Okay, no worries. Any other questions folk would like to raise? Then we've had a good chance to have a chat about this and the plan. Okay, we're good. So can we go to the resolutions, please, which is that we receive the report. Seems pretty simple, doesn't it, after a good discussion, Sharon? But I can see you'll be a fixture back at our committee over the course of this, please. Don't go away sort of type thing. We received the report from Crow. Actually, I do think actually we need to also endorse the actions of management to prepare and consider, because you've got to adopt it yet, a project procurement and management improvement plan. And I know in the normal course of things it's going to come back to us, so I don't think we need anything else. So I'll move that from the chair over a second, please. Thank you, David. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? It's carried. Thank you very much. Good. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. Right. Let's come to the end of the meeting. Karen, I have not done the decent thing and checked with you, Karen. Karen.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was just reading the rest of the report.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Look, I should have offered. Is there any reason that you would like time with the committee without staff here?
No.
Okay.
No. The audit is going very smoothly. We're on track.
Right.
There are no issues to draw to the committee's attention. At this stage, we will report back after our second interim audit.
Brilliant. Good. And I need to do that close out on the annual plan. So my apologies, that's my problem, not nobody else's, and I'll do that with Louise because it's with its delegations too. And look, I just want to ask members, have you got any desire to catch up with Karen? Have you got questions you'd like to ask her without staff here?
No.
We're okay?
No. Yeah.
Let's make certain Carolyn, that at the next meeting, we do have specific time set aside rather than me trying to do it on the fly as I've just done now. So could we just make certain that at the next meeting, we include time, auditor alone time, at the conclusion of the meeting, which would be superb. Thank you. Appreciate you being here. Hope you're encouraged by some of the changes that you're seeing with the papers and also with the, quite frankly, the control environment we're trying to implement here. Yes, which I come back to the fact, very thrilled with our ELTs gripping up on this stuff.
Yes.
With staff like Sharon and Andrew and Adam and Co and what have you around the place. It's been really helpful. I'm going to declare the meeting closed. Do I have to pass a motion?
No, I was going to say do the kind of care, but you've closed the meeting, so that's fine.
Oh.
Well, it's not really,
We're
to be honest.
We are going to have the carrot. I'm forever a person that say the rules should work for us rather than us for the rules. So why don't we join in saying the carrot care, whether I'm in meeting or not meeting, I'm not overly worried. Let's do that. Thank you. Ki tō te rangi Māori, ki runga i ngā iwi katoa o Ahuriri, kia piki te ora, te kaha me te māramatanga i ngā wā katoa, ti hei Māori ora. Thank you for making that to be done, Sally. I'm sorry that I tried to get out of this meeting too fast. So
We did it.
appreciate that.
We did it.
We did it together as a team. Well done.